Welcome, Team OnCore. I've got some fascinating guests on our show today, Ryan Daly and Matthew Reagan of Operation 36. These gentlemen are Class A PGA professionals, award-winning, as voted by their peers, and they're going to share their story of Operation 36 today, which I have to tell you is really incredible. And when I first read about it, I was really blown away and just kind of thought, geez, this is so elegant, simple, and I wish this was around when I was learning golf. And kind of how didn't someone think of this already? So without further ado, please welcome our guests, Ryan and Matt. How are you guys?
Doing good. Thanks for having us.
We're good, Steve. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Great. So Ryan, can you give the high level on Op 36 for our listeners who may not be aware of this exciting model that's disrupting junior golf?
Sure, absolutely. It has evolved quite a bit. I think we're in our 11th or 12th year doing this, Steve. So Matt and I have, I think our strongest asset that we have is we don't mind trying new things. We kind of see what the market tells us what to do, and then we adjust and we change. So what we currently have now in 2020 is completely different than when we started back in 2010, 2011. But currently, Op36 is an on-course development model and coaching program designed to progress a beginner golfer from their very first round of golf to becoming a lifelong golfer. And it's taken us 11 years to come up with those two sentences, but it does a really good job of explaining that it's a development model where you take somebody as a beginner golfer from stage one. They can be a junior, they can be an adult, and you take them on the course. That's the focus. Start them close to the hole with achievable goals. Every hole's a par 4. You start 25 yards away. We just had a story come through this morning that Matt and I were looking at from Magnolia, Texas golf course, where a junior golfer who's a beginner, in his first few matches in Op 36, these events that the coaches run, he had his first hole-in-one ever.
Wow.
So how excited is that kid when he wakes up this morning and goes, I can't wait to grab my clubs and play again. So that's kind of why it's caught fire, is that it's fun to do, it's exciting, and it's actually playing the game of golf, which that was our biggest headache when we first started, is we didn't realize how important playing the game was.
So instead of, struggling, as a new golfer right off the bat on an 18-hole course, you guys really redesigned the course and said, it doesn't need to be played from the tee box. We can move it up. Once you achieve a score of par from, is it 25 yards out is where you start, and then you go around 9 holes, you make par, you can move back to 50 yards, do it again, and move back. It's really, it's a really fascinating model. And the growth, in terms of your growth, was it a really fast growth, or did it take a few years? I looked at your map, and you've got over 500 facilities. You've got some of the top instructors who've really bought into this program for pretty obvious reasons. But I'm curious, did it take some time, or was it pretty rapid?
Yeah, we started the first, if we look at our 10-year journey, it's like the first 10 or the first 5 years are really Ryan and I together. We started at Campbell University in Boise Creek, North Carolina, right there, at Campbell University's golf course, Keith Hills Golf Club. And the whole goal was to get a junior, long-term junior golf development program going. That was and Ryan was tasked with it and brought me on the journey with him. And then we just never stopped working together. It was kind of one of those things. I thought I'd always go do my thing. He would go do his, and we'd learn together in the first couple of years. But it turned out we just had too much fun trying to figure out how to keep kids coming. The basic concept was how could we get kids coming once a week for the entire golf season? That was, instead of just a camper clinic in the summer, which is traditional, what you see in tradition in golf. But gymnastics, karate, dance, basketball, every other sport, you can do it year round now, right? So we started there, and then it just slowly evolved over time to putting together a 6-level curriculum for the kids and learning how to gamify things and learning how to show development and making sure the classes were fun every week that the kids were coming to, and thinking through that. And then in year 5, that was where we ended up actually, we didn't really have the playing component tied to it, but we ended up losing like 40 of our golfers then. We had 80 kids coming once a week for 8 months out of the year. We were having great time in classes, and then we end up losing about 40 of our golfers in year 5, going, what the heck? And this was just as golf pros were seeing what we were doing and wanting to reach out. They wanted the badges and the bag tag and the curriculum and the gamified stuff to keep kids engaged at the golf course. And then we knew it didn't work at that point. You know, we're like, gosh, we just lost 40 of our kids overnight. We got on the phone with all of them, and it was a common component to every single one of them. None of them actually played the game outside of our classes. And that's what led us down this road of, hey, we actually have to get people on the golf course if you're going to turn them into golfers, right? But everybody shies away from that. One, because of pace of play, trying to get a beginner on the golf course and make them feel good. If they actually played a full tee box, it would take them like 4 hours to play 9 holes, right? And so no one really shaped that model for a beginner to get on the golf course. However, you need to get them on the course to turn them into a golfer. So it's this oxymoron. And that's really where that development model came from. Shoot 36 from close to the hole and back up. And we call the model Op 36 today. When we got that wrapped up, that's when things started to really come together for us, right? Because we already had a long-term curriculum in place. We already had engaging classes that were a ton of fun and they were gamified and yada, yada, yada. But we were missing the development. We wanted to take someone from their first round and take them as far as they want into the sport. And year 5 is when it kind of took off. We had one course in Charlotte, North Carolina, Carmel Country Club. Jason Sutton, Maggie Simons there pushed us over the ledge and said, we want to use what you're using. And this was just as we were starting to embark on the Op 36 development model on the course. And then from their location and hearing the success of it, and they were sharing with others, it kind of grew to 15 locations. Then it grew from 15 to about 120 in the 3rd year of licensing. And then we now are, again, over about 500 facilities. So we've just doubled our facilities every year so far since we started licensing in 2015, 2016. So, which has been great. So we've been able to kind of go from, hey, here's how we run it at our own golf academy. And then it's been challenging to figure out, let's see if this thing would stand up on its own at other golf facilities, right? And will it be successful? And we measure success in a lot of ways. One, from the player participant level, right? But also we want to make it a viable business for a golf professional to say, this is something that I can add on to my low salary that I'm paid and maybe potentially make an okay living as a golf professional. And there's people who want to learn to play golf. The interest has never been higher with all the other entertainment spaces coming in and bringing golf to life. And we just want to be, I guess, cheerleaders or just show people that there's a better way to learn to play golf. Because who knows how many people left the sport. They got into it. They did the whole, hey, take 5 lessons before you get into golf, before you even play on the course. They take their 5 lessons. Every lesson they leave feeling defeated because they don't have the skill set they think they should, and then they never play golf. And if they do play a golf hole, it takes them about 40 minutes to play one hole. They feel defeated and they never come back. Like, that is probably the worst experience we could ever do. And it sounds logical, but it's not the right way to do it. The right way is to get them on the course, get them comfortable playing right away, but give them scale the course as they scale their skill is what we say. So, but yeah.
Cool. Well, I grew up playing a course where there was a par 3 9-hole course attached to the 18-hole course. And I almost feel like, it's similar to your model in a way where I was gaining confidence on, par 3 holes. Most of them were 100 yards or so. I think we had one that was 150, but, I'd play, multiple rounds a day for years, and it was fun. And, we'd hit range and we'd play the par 3 course. And, every now and again we'd get out on the adult, call it the adult course and get around that way. But definitely what was that part of the process, thinking about those par 3 courses, or was it just there's a lack of those courses for kids around the country? Do you think that's similar to your model in a way, or not?
I think sort of. Well, I think when Matt and I first started taking folks on the course, we tried to do that model, like the par three model. We take the students to, I can't remember the yardages that we were doing then, like 120 or 80 yards away, and we take them out on the golf course. But it was still extremely frustrating for us as a coach to get folks through the golf course and to play 9 holes. I remember the first time we tried it, it was like 3 hours to get the students through, 3.5 hours. And these are beginner golfers and juniors. And we actually gave up on playing the game and just said, all right, let's just pull them to the driving range, pull them to the putting green. At least we can play music and have a good time and throw footballs, and they can leave smiling, because when they go on the course from 100 yards away, they're defeated. And so then we're like, there's got to be a better way, but there's got to be a better way where you don't have to redesign and pour tons of money into these existing golf facilities around the world. Like, we couldn't come in and go, hey, we're going to build X number of tee boxes on your facility, and it's going to cost you 6, 7, 8 figures to do this. We had to figure out a way to make it somewhat simple to integrate. So when we came up with the numbers 25 and 50, we actually originally came up with the numbers based on what's normally at a facility. So like at your golf course, I'm sure there's a 100-yard plate in the fairway, there's a 150-yard plate, and there's usually a 200-yard plate. And then we said, all right, well, what yardages can we put in between there to give somebody the confidence to then build up to 100 yards away? So we're like, all right, 50 and 25. So then that led us down a path of problem solving. How do we help guide somebody to play the game from 25 yards away? So then we had to create, and we haven't gotten a ton into it yet, but technology, mobile app, Android, iPhone, we kind of got into that tech game to then help folks when they're beginning or starting out. How does a mobile app guide you through your first round of golf and know exactly where to drop your ball from 25 yards away from the center of the green? So now it's a really cool experience where, like, my wife can go out and play for her first round. She takes her phone with her, drops her ball at 25 yards, plays a hole, walks to the next hole, looks at her phone when it says 25 yards, drops the ball, plays. She's done it in an hour and a half. She doesn't hold anybody up. We have a great time. I might play from the tee box. She might play from 25 yards away. Our other son might play from 25 yards away, and we have this awesome experience. So yeah, the par 3 was kind of helpful in guiding us, but in our view, that was still too difficult, because you're still getting punched in the mouth when you write down a double bogey, you write down a triple bogey, you lose golf balls from 25 yards away. If every hole's a par 4, I can almost guarantee, Matt and I can almost guarantee that in your first 9 holes, you're probably going to make your first par, which is so exhilarating when most of us are going out and writing down a 10 or 12. And it's just, we're designed for failure. With that development model, you're designed for failure by putting people on the tee box and they hit it 45 degrees in the woods, and it's just not fun.
Got a question with everything going around in terms of the pandemic. What would you say to parents out there, or just golfers that want to give some advice to junior golfers in terms of getting lessons? How should they approach that? Are group lessons still safe? And how are you guys thinking about that? Matt, why don't you take that one?
Yeah. So, we're actually, we've been working on with the network. I mean, when this pandemic happened, you have everybody ready to run group coaching programs. Everyone was ready. That's what we were built for. It's been a challenge to help coaches kind of redesign how they're going to scale their programs back up in a safe way, because the most challenging part about this is there's conflicting information everywhere from the CDC all the way down through. And it seems like the only thing we can do is social distance and make sure that, they tell us to wear masks, not wear masks. But what's interesting about golf, right, is we see that, I'm sure you talked about this with others on the show, it's the one sport that everyone is flocking to right now. I think, I was talking with Lauren Anderson at Golf Channel, and the rounds are 10 to 16% up or something. It's incredible. And what's interesting about our program is it's centered around playing golf, where most other programs are, hey, we're going to come to class, we're just going to play a game on the driving range, then you're going to leave. It's the one portion of our if you're joining an Op 36 program, you're going to get on the golf course in some sort of like development league, right? You're actually going to play golf. So on the golf course, it's so easy to keep that social distancing, keep that space, and be safe. It's very simple to do that, and that's what a lot of our facilities have done. As I said, the first thing we're going to do is, maybe we're going to scale back the coaching aspect of this, but we can still get people on the golf course. Even if you're a complete beginner, you can learn to play golf today. You could come out to our 9-hole development league. So that would be the first, thing. They should always be playing golf in a nice scaled up way or scaled back way. So that's very safe. And then as far as when it comes back to, okay, well, what would be the next safest thing I could do as a parent? Well, the next safest thing would be private lessons, right? Because we can practice social distancing one-on-one. That makes it pretty simple. So we have some guidelines that, have been recommended by the PGA of America, the bigger organizations in the world of golf that have recommended, what to do. And then each facility is kind of taking it step by step based on their location, right? And so being able to do a private lesson is the next easiest one. And then the neat thing about group coaching, that's the hardest part about all this, is it's so hard as a junior to want to learn in a private setting. It's so much more engaging. It's the way we're supposed to learn, right? In group social settings. Now, the nice thing about golf is it is outdoors, and you can set these things apart, right? You can set up stations in a safe way. And that's what we're seeing our coaches do, like the ones that are getting full back at it. And Ryan can speak to this more, because Keith Hill's golf club is still running programs in a very safe way. And the most interesting thing about right now, and this is what, we speak to our network on, is there's a lot of sports that are team sports where you're going to interact and have to touch. Soccer, you're going to be running into someone. Basketball, you're running up against someone. Baseball, a little bit. Tennis is pretty good going back and forth, but you're sharing equipment. Golf is the only one that you kind of can keep that your own equipment. You're not touching others. You can keep the stations separate. You can do it in a good way. And our numbers, because we have leads coming through our website to these coaches that are saying, hey, I'm very interested in this program. Send me your information on how you get up and running. And our leads are 2 times more than they were last year at this time. So yeah. And like Ryan this week, because we still run, we run Keith Hill's Golf Academy still. Sam has a wait list, doesn't he, Ryan, now, because of how many folks have reached out?
Yeah, we've had record enrollment in the last 2 months. It's the only thing available in the area for people to do. And we've had, from a junior aspect, if we want to stick on juniors for a second, like they can't bowl, they can't play baseball. And we've got people just flocking in going, I want to learn golf again. Kids that have left golf previously, people that Matt and I taught back in the day that went to bowling and basketball and baseball have come back. And I see familiar faces come by, and I'm like, this is fantastic. Our course is very, very crowded right now. Or I should say busy. Crowded isn't the best word, but it's very busy. We're doing a good job with spacing, and there's some really strong potential here for golf to come out of this, like the winner. If there is considered a winner after all this is done, I mean, they're going to come out potentially if they're ready for it. That's the hardest thing, right? Are you ready for it? And fortunately, we were prepared. You were talking about you guys being prepared at OnCore for kind of the online consumer, and you guys had all your systems in place so you're ready for this. Fortunately, we're ready for this beginner golf onslaught, and they keep coming, and we're like, all right, you go here, you go here, you go here, and we've been very fortunate.
Yeah, just picking up on that, Ryan, some of the numbers over the last few years, we've heard, golf has been on the decline in terms of participation. I think before the crisis, we started to see, maybe back up to some, we weren't losing as many as we were in the past. So participation was maybe slightly up. And then, of course, the crisis hit, and people are still trying to assess, what's going on. But growing the game has been an initiative of a number of the organizations, including OP36, whether it's juniors, whether it's the PGA, the USGA, the Masters, trying to get people back into golf. What are you seeing in terms of Operation 36 and any other numbers you've seen in terms of the participation in golf?
Sure. So Matt and I have had some deep conversations on this. I think our biggest pet peeve on this is, how do you measure how do you measure that you've actually created a golfer? So at the end of this whole thing, when Matt and I are, ready to retire, like, what impact have we actually had? So we're like, all right, we're going to set a standard for how you actually measure that you've grown the game and created a golfer, because that's such a blanket statement. And it's always interesting when somebody says that. You feel like, well, how do you measure that? How do you know how many people have actually come? So our measurement, and we do this internally in our web app, and we can see all of our coaches, is when a student has gone out, they've played 9 holes from 25 yards away, and they've beaten 36, in our mind, they have been created as a golfer. And then we compile those stats every month, every year. And our goal that we set at the beginning of this year, end of last year, was to create 1 million new golfers by 2025. So we're kind of putting that out. That's a pretty big goal for a small organization of 12 people in rural North Carolina. But our goal is to have quite an impact, but also measure it and be able to show people, because in our eyes, like when somebody, I think it's 12 million folks have raised their hand and said that they're interested in playing the game, but they haven't started. Well, why haven't they started? If you were to look at our facilities, like, golf is growing. Like, when we go through and talk to coaches, Tom Harris in Ohio, I mean, we could name quite a few coaches, like, they're doing very well. Golf is growing at their facilities. So we're having an impact. Facilities are seeing more people come in that are using Op 36. Our challenge right now internally is, how do we get more facilities using Op 36? How do we get more coaches to jump on board and support the mission of getting beginner golfers into the game? Because we know it works. We just need to be able to scale it bigger and bigger to have a really big impact.
That's a great segue into a new initiative you both have started, #StartGolf. Matt, maybe you could give us the high level on what that's all about.
Yeah. So, again, the midst of the pandemic kind of forces a lot to be creative and to bring some things forward that could help, our network and continue the mission that we're on, because, we really don't have time to sit back and wait. If we have a public goal of introducing 1 million new golfers to the game. So we need as many channels to introduce folks to the game as possible. And one thing that we've been seeing is there's a segment of golfers, and we've been hearing this, it doesn't take much research to start to see it come to life a little bit, that there's folks that will never go to a green grass program because of the fear of making a mistake or looking stupid or, whatever it might be. And honestly, it comes down to that a lot. And I think, we start looking at, we're really passionate about design too. Like, we have an interesting team. Like, we love the idea of how could you design this experience of someone coming into the game of golf? We've been looking, we've said that for 3, 4, 5 years now. It's like, how do you design that? And what does it look like? And when you talk to folks, it's interesting to see how overwhelming golf can be when they get brought in. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to find that segment of golfers or non-golfers, beginners, but that are interested. And we think, there's so many. We're seeing the numbers rise. The NGF is reporting that, every year the level of interest in golf is rising. However, how do we convert those people into an actual green grass golfer? And Start Golf was created to almost be a prep course before a golf lesson, or a prep course before you play your first 9 holes, or even go to a golf facility, to get you kind of pumped up, ready, have a plan, and educated. So that way you feel ready and equipped with the knowledge to say, I don't care. I'm not going to fear making mistakes. We have a class tonight. We have our second class tonight. And there are 4 classes. And the stuff that we cover and the stuff that we, as we were building this curriculum, we're like, even when we were giving golf lessons, this is stuff that we don't cover. You kind of have to learn it through the scrapes and bruises on your own, because it's so many little things, little details. And, just giving an example of, putting the bucket underneath the range machine. How many times have you seen someone throw the token in without that? The balls go everywhere. They're so embarrassed. It's the most embarrassing, like little things like that you don't think about, that, as well as like letting them know, because everyone watches golf on TV and it looks so simple. The pros make it look incredibly simple. You only see the good shots. You never see the bad shots. So when you show up, you're knowledge of golf or the way you perceive golf is that you're going to be amazing at it. And by giving them kind of the Op36 model to understand how they're going to improve, reshaping how people get into golf, they now have a plan. They feel good about it. They understand that it's going to take a while, but it's not a thing that I'm going to become a amazing golfer overnight. It does take a little bit of time, but it can be fun and enjoyable along the way. So that's what Start Golf is all about. It's 4 online classes live with us. And then our goal is to take these folks that would have never joined a green grass program, would have never filled out a form on our website to get in contact with a coach, and then get them comfortable enough and then connect them with their coach, right? Because then the next thing they need is, if you want to not go this alone and you want to accelerate your journey, you should have a coach, a leader, and a program to help you. That's what they're there for, right? It's just like if I wanted to lose 10 pounds, the first thing is like education, understanding, right? And then the next one is I'm going to go and I'm either going to try to do a little program on my own, but I know it's going to be a lot more successful if I get a leader and I actually go and I join a Orange Theory Fitness, or I join a something or a CrossFit, and I have a community helping me. So that's kind of the phases that we're seeing. So this is just a new phase for us, a new channel to pull people into the game, educate them about how to play the game. And our goal is to see if maybe we can get them to play 9 holes comfortably on their own, by the end of the program, like challenge them to do that. And,
Sure.
and so it's been great so far, and again, it's a new thing, and we're testing it out. But if we can't get people to go get comfortable playing golf, that's what keeps golf facilities alive, and so we're just trying to get folks fired up about that.
And that, just to clarify, Matt, that's for all age ranges, right?
It is. It's mostly geared a little bit more towards adults. Just the learning setting. You're on a call. You're on a Zoom webinar. We're going through we have got about 100 slides that we go through to help educate you in a nice streamlined way. But it's a lot. It could be a whole family in front of their TV, right? They just sign up for it. But more than likely, it's going to be more based on adults. We do talk about juniors a little bit and how to get juniors in. But juniors, just sitting them in front of a computer and going over some of these things isn't the best environment for them, right? So it's been more definitely tailored to adults, and those who are that have colleagues that play golf and have always wanted to get in, or they get invited to the golf tournament, but they're not sure if they want to go. They aren't sure, like they don't want to make a fool out of themselves. That's really what this is for, is just to get them comfortable going, this isn't as hard as you think, even though it can be a bit overwhelming if you just don't know some basic things. And so that's what we try to cover in Start Golf.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting because, I talk to a lot of people and they hear I'm in the golf industry. Naturally, the conversation comes up, do you play golf? And if they say no, they oftentimes express an interest or say, I'd love to learn the game. And then, it's kind of like, well, how can I help this person? We can go to the range, we can hit balls, but I'm sure a lot of our listeners are in that position. They're golfers, and they meet people that want to try the game and play it, but they might not be sure how to best advise them. And Ryan, maybe how would you suggest our listeners help others who express an interest?
Sure. If somebody's interested and they've never had any experience in playing the game and they're a little fearful, Start Golf is a very low commitment, jump on board, $99, 4 classes, see if you like it. And gosh, we had one guy last week, Matt. I mean, that guy got so fired up. He was so excited about our pace of play tip that he went out and he had a great time on the golf course, and he can't wait for the next class. So doing something like that where it's non-threatening, like the Start Golf thing, and then we're going to connect them to a coach would be an avenue. If somebody has a little bit of experience, but they want to get a little bit more detailed, then find an Op36 coach to help them. And both those avenues, Start Golf and Op36, if you go to the website, op36.golf, the whole website's tailored to answering that question that you just asked. I have a friend that's interested in the game. Where should I send them? And eventually, when our technology gets to a point, we would love our mobile app to take care of that, which it will here shortly. But to bridge the gap for right now, just go to our website, op36.golf, and that will certainly help them. it's interesting you bring that up, Steve, because Matt and I have that conversation all the time. It's like all these other hobbies have a wonderful on-ramp. Like hockey, I grew up in New York. When I wanted to play hockey, I went to the local rink and the youth association got me started. I started out as a mini mite, then I went to a mite, then a squirt, peewee, bantam, high school team. The development model was perfect. I knew exactly where I was supposed to go. If we get into CrossFit, if Matt and I go join a CrossFit class, the first class you're going to do with a PVC pipe. You're not going to put any weight on it. They're going to show you the technique, and they're going to wait until you're ready to start putting weight on and putting you with other people. Golf, we don't have that. At one point, it was take 5 lessons and then go on the course. Most people would never finish those 5 lessons. I think the research showed that they'd only take 2 or 3 of those. They weren't ready to play on the course from the tee box, so then they'd go out and have a horrible experience and then they'd quit. So at golf, we got to catch up. And I would say Matt and I's biggest passion is to answer that question. You're at the Christmas party and somebody asks, oh, you're into golf. And you're like, oh no, here it comes. And they're like, I want to get into golf. What should I do? Oh, just go to op36.golf and you can start there.
That's great. Yeah, because I'm certainly gonna share that across my social feeds, and for the listeners, please do the same. Visit op36.com, connect with Ryan and Matt, and share the Start Golf initiative, because you've got friends in your network that are looking to you to for answers, how to get involved, how to play. And as golfers, we don't have all the answers. So that's why we have folks like Ryan and Matt on our show to help educate us and help grow the game. Well, this has really been fascinating, and I appreciate everything you guys are doing for the game. The success you guys have had with Op36 is incredible, and the Start Golf initiative is just perfect for the times we're in and the need out there in the market to bring new golfers into the game and keep them. So thank you, Matt Reagan and Ryan Daly. Really appreciate having you on our show.
Sure. Thanks for having us, Steve. You've never put a token in and seen the range balls go out, have you? Without a basket?
I used to pick the range balls. That was my job. I was the guy in the cart where you were trying to hit and smash the rattle the cage. So, but yeah, no, this was great, guys. Thanks for your time and your passion and energy. I'm really excited to get this interview out there to our listeners. So thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks for having us.
All right. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.